Thank you. For those of you that have been here, we will start at 6:35. We're waiting on one more council member that's on the way. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for waiting. And time is now 6:36. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, if you can start off with a roll call.
Councilmember Collazo,
Present.
Councilmember Garcia,
Present.
Councilmember Ruano,
Present.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Present.
Councilmember Dieguez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Alvarez, and Mayor Sid are absent. You have quorum.
Thank you so much. Let's start off with a moment of silence or a prayer led by Councilman Dieguez.
Everyone, please stand by your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you asking for your guidance on this very important matter. We've been discussing this for years, and of course, we just want to do what's right by the residents. So we ask for your wisdom as we go about making that decision. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman. Now the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Ruano. Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Thank you so much. You may be seated. We only have one item on the agenda. I don't believe there's any additions, deferrals, or deletions, but if there are any other items, please mention those at this time. Hearing none, let's move on to the order of business. Any public comments?
I do see one participant online. If you do wish to speak, please just unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, the person online is recognized and can speak. Okay, hearing none, public comments are closed. On to the item on the agenda, 7A. Town Attorney?
Okay, we're here on, as you know, we've been involved in litigation to acquire property in order for the town to be able to build Northwest 59th Avenue. The litigation has been long, it's been extensive. This is probably the most, besides incarcerating someone, this is probably number 2 on the list of things that are protected and constitutional rights. For example, this is one of the few instances where in a civil case, you'll have a 12-person jury. The litigant is well represented. John Lucas is a good lawyer. He's done a great job. We've been represented now by J.C. Wiesel's firm, who've been doing a great job. We've negotiated to be able to purchase this property for $4.5 million, subject to your approval. That's what we're here on today. I'll have the manager go into the money aspect of it. You know, what monies are there, how much this is going to actually cost the town, how much is coming out of the town's pocket. But as far as negotiating the deal, we've negotiated fair market value. We've had the property appraised. In your packet is a report detailing the appraisal, and we hit it right on the button. So as far as that's concerned, we recommend it. The attorney's fee that Mr. Lucas and his firm will be entitled to is determined by statute based on increases in value and certain formulas. We will have to pay those fees. We will have to pay some other fees. Remind me what other fees we have to pay, what other costs we're going to have to pay.
Just under 36,000 in costs.
Right. Was attorney's fees, costs?
On the
What about
purchase
getting
price.
the tenants out and things like that? We don't have to pay any of that?
The what?
Getting the tenants out, do we have to pay any of that?
Relocation expenses, they're
Yeah.
not part of the settlement agreement. They're a separate project that is encompassed in this.
Okay.
in this
And
project.
Mr. Manager, we're budgeted for those as
Yeah,
well?
the entire project now, with the latest allocations that we've gotten from the state and the federal government, the project is fully funded. So it's completely funded between all these various sources.
Right.
And there's one other caveat, which is the family that owns the actual property. They've been longtime residents of the town. And one of his asks was that at some point after this is over, that their family be recognized, the Spetco family.
They've owned the property since the early 1970s.
After we pay $4.5 million, do we get a discount for the recognition?
No. It was something that I agreed to.
Well, I think that if we're paying $4.5 million and there is no concession towards the price, I don't believe there needs to be any recognition. My personal
It's
opinion.
Something that we
Right, but it
Th-
needs to be
this is
ratified by
emotional.
this council,
This
right?
is remember what's going on here. We have walked up to you and told you, give me your property.
Understood, but we're paying a hefty amount of money for it.
They are giving up the income, the deductions. They are giving up a lot. It's, we have walked up to them and said, we want this property, whether you like it or not. They've owned it since the 1970s. They're Miami Lakes people. I didn't think it was a big issue, just to give them a recognition for something like that. They've saved it. They've allowed us, not allowed us, but by settling the case at this point, we have saved a lot of attorney's fees on our end, a lot of costs and everything else. I didn't think it was a major ask.
The other thing to consider, piggybacking on
Mhm.
what Mr. Gustesi is saying, is that if we were to go to trial, I mean, we're getting the property at market value. There is a chance that if we would go forward and they wanted to litigate it, they could get it above market value. So that's something for the council to consider.
Yeah, and I would add, at this point, when we go to court, we have to proffer to the court, what is the market value that we assess for the property? Our appraiser has prepared a report. His estimate is 4.5 million. So that is the value that we would be assessing the property at. That's the value we would tell the court the property is valued at. And so any litigation beyond that would be based on any challenge to that valuation, meaning the owner could say that is not the proper value, the value is higher than that. And so the value that we're getting is the minimum value that we would be paying in this litigation. So really the recognition is the only thing that is above and beyond what we would have to pay and in this litigation.
Through the chair. Sure. Just a couple questions to the manager, just to clarify, funding sources. If you could
Yes.
just go over our funding sources, that we've received grants from the federal government, also
Yeah,
other grants that they'll be able to pay for this.
We have an appropriation from the federal government. We have an appropriation from the state government. We have a grant from the state government. We have road impact fees from the county. And we have a people's transportation plan allocations that come from the county, even though we're entitled to it and it could be used for other things, but it is all money that comes from county, state, and federal government that fully funds this project.
Thank you so much.
Just to get us in a good procedural posture, I'm going to go ahead and move that we approve the resolution. Again,
second.
just so we can get into proper posture.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any further discussion? I do have, I do have questions to the manager, and what we'll do is what we've done in all the other meetings. Let's just go down one round, and then if we have to, we'll go down a second round and keep on going. So Ray, you already took your turn. I'm going to go ahead and and go with or unless you had another question. No? Okay. Mr. Manager, I see here this spreadsheet, something that to me is an excellent visual tool for us. I know it's something that came up in the executive session, but it really helps me kind of visualize what's happening and all the funding sources and really the years of hard work that have gone into that and the years of money that we maybe haven't invested in the town, right? Monies that could have been put into this. And I want to bring back some history because I know sometimes fresher eyes have a different perspective on this. I think we were in on this project when we first started, a couple million-ish, right? And fully funded, and it's gotten to this point. I don't think there's anything that we can do other than continue to move forward. Like Councilman Garcia said, we have now had to leverage federal partners, state partners, county dollars, and I think we are all in. We're in it so deep. If I had to do this all over again, and I had this information in front of me, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it. But it's a different time, and we're in a different mindset now, in a different place, right? And I think we have to do it. I think it would be reckless if we didn't do it. I've been very candid about my remarks about that, and it's nothing that you could have prognosticated as our attorney. It's nothing that I believe the manager could have prognosticated. Times changed, right? The valuation on the property changed. We didn't have enough money and we needed more money. And that's the reason that this thing continues to be in front of us. And my props go out to the people who were championing this from the beginning, like early on the mayor and now later on Councilman Dieguez, because when this thing was going to have the literally life support pulled out of it because we just couldn't go on, these guys continue to carry the baton. So Councilman Diegas, because you're present here with us today, I know if it wasn't for your heavy lifting, this project wouldn't come to fruition. Just like maybe if it wasn't for the Miami Lakes residents selling it to us at the appraised value. So, not to discredit the work that's gone in. Really, it's been a labor that's become this, but not what we initially thought. By no stretch of our imagination, this was not what we initially intended. But it is what it is. So my questions are really based on this document that you provided, Mr. Manager. And I see that we continue to allocate some funds well into 2026 from PTP 80. Apart from this, do you foresee us needing any additional dollars to
No.
come to fruition, for
On
this
the-
project to come to fruition?
On the contrary, council member, because the hope is, there are two wild cards, two variables that we needed to, account for. One now is being solidified, right? Which is the purchase price of the warehouse. That now hopefully with this action tonight by this council, that will be no longer a variable. It'll be a known number. The second variable that we still have to account for is construction. We've done a great job together with our external consultant and our professionals to get a very good idea of what today's numbers would be for construction. But the reality is that we never really know until we put it out to bid, right? Because it's an ever-changing number. So we hope that once this goes out to bid and there are no longer unknowns, there are no longer variables, but we know what all the numbers are going to be, that we'll be able to extract some of the PTP money that we put into this project, or at least budgeted into this project, and be able to then reallocate to different infrastructure items within the town.
So my one caveat would be as again, I'm only going to be up here for another 12 months. Is that this is a working document from what you're saying, and as you have adjustments, let's just leave it at that, to not use any other word, but as you have adjustments to this document, that they in some form be brought back either in the form of the report. I know you give ongoing reports through the public works manager at meeting, but whatever future councils have to deal with this, I think this document, or this living, breathing document, has to be somehow front and center, because it does have ramifications well beyond my tenure here. And I don't want to be known as the council that saddled, another council with something that maybe is not something that they anticipated. So I just want to make sure that that's something that's preserved in the record, and maybe an amendment to whatever motion when this.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy thing. Anything of significance that changes, obviously, sometimes we have an estimate and it gets tweaked by a couple dollars here and there. I don't think that's significant. It's not going to change the structure of this budget. But anything that is of significant, or if something surfaces later, like a new study that's being required by somebody, and it's going to be $100,000 or something of that nature, we'll provide you those significant changes to this budget as they occur. And that way you'll be up to breast with the most recent numbers possible.
Yeah, no, and again, I go back to this document because this document is what kind of was my ask during the executive session. It's a document that really helps me kind of put all these moving parts, the federal funding, the MDX funding, into kind of how did we get here, right? And I think it's really the roadmap, or serves to me as the roadmap of what future councils are going to have to be dealing with. So I wanted to make sure that it was somehow preserved as part of the item moving forward. So I'll wait till the second round. I'm done with my comments. Councilman Morano.
Thank you. During the executive session, I requested figures of what it would cost us to not move forward. Were we able to acquire those figures?
If we were to not move forward with this, what would be the exposure that we would still have with regard to the to any of the legal costs and the seller and so forth?
Right.
Expenses that we've already incurred and what we would be responsible for.
We would be responsible for the attorney's fees and costs of the other side. We have the
Right, so
costs,
you
which
said
are
costs are about 36
36,000.
and the attorney's fees?
The attorney's fees, I'm estimating about 300 hours that they would claim having been spent in 2 litigations. The rate, which vary between $500 and $750 per hour. I estimate that we would get a claim for $750 an hour for 300 hours in total, at least, and that's approximately $220,000. That's just an estimate of what.
That's just an estimate. And,
What the
and,
claim would be, yes.
okay, and because there are no, you had mentioned statutory fees, that does not apply if we do not move forward.
No, if you do decide not to move forward and dismiss both of all litigation, then they're entitled to reasonable attorney's fees based on hours spent and a reasonable rate for those for the
Okay,
work performed.
perfect. And then what have we spent as far as our attorney's fees? And any other costs that we've had? I don't know if we've done preliminary, I believe that we've done preliminary design work and things of that nature. Where are we with regards to those numbers?
Yep. You can follow on here on the expenses.
Mhm.
You could probably follow along
On the
with
project costs?
by fiscal year, yeah. So we're looking at, if I'm not mistaken, a little like about $1.4 million.
That we've already spent.
Yes.
Walk me through what we've spent that on.
If you look at the
Mhm.
bottom half of that spreadsheet are the expenses, the project costs. And if you look at it by fiscal years, we've gone through already the end of fiscal 23.
So we've paid an appraisal. I guess 3 times in 3 different fiscal years, or is this
No, that's probably the first appraisal was.
28,000 in year 2021, 7,500 in year 2023. And then there's $20,000 earmarked here for year 2024.
Right, for that last appraisal is the one that's contained in your packet.
So that's already been done. Okay, right-of-way consultants. 114 that we've already paid.
Omar, you're more familiar, yes, right? Yeah.
Okay. And the 340,000 that is in this fiscal year, is that something that we've already paid, or is that something that?
No,
we-
that is what we would be paying in this current fiscal year.
If we move forward or if we did not move forward? Are we responsible for that if we see? And this is why I asked for. Right, so this is why during the executive session, I wanted a price tag. Because I can't make a decision. You just say refer to the spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet is not clear as to what we're responsible for and what we're not responsible for. I don't know where the spreadsheet breaks off if we move forward or if we don't move forward. So I don't have the number that I need, at least the number that makes sense to me, right? If I say today we don't move forward, it's going to cost me 1.5, 1.6, 1.4. I don't have that number.
Yeah,
Is there any way that we can come up with that number?
Give us a moment because
Sure.
finance already gave
No,
us
that's
a,
okay.
yeah, finance gave us,
I mean, I can hold that question off
okay.
and have.
But
my
it's
colleagues-
going to be in that neighborhood of 1.3, 1.4. But let Omar look and see the finance gave us a recap of what we've already paid, right? A lot of that is design cost appraisals, some of the stuff that has to happen early on. Then there's. if
We have to
if
tack on to
if
that
we-
the attorney's fees.
Right, if we pull out, then we still have pending obligations that Mr. Weissel detailed for you
Mhm.
of what some of the costs would be.
Pending obligations for the property owner,
Right,
his costs.
yes,
Right, but what I need to know is how much I want to make a decision as to whether or not, and I've tried to pull the plug on this multiple times because this was foreseeable in my eyes. Because we, at least to me, right, we had to design things, we had to spend a whole bunch of money without having all of these details known to us. Now we are saddling future councils through 2026. Right? So there's no sidewalks, no roads, no any of that because our PTP money continues. Our PTP money has been stuck in this project since I joined this council. I have never had access to $1 of PTP money to do anything other than 59th Avenue. This is like the white elephant that we just can't seem to move forward on. These numbers are still estimates. And I know that Councilmember Collazo made it very clear that, we want this to be as updated as possible, but these are estimates. They're always going to be estimates. And we never come in under budget for anything. So it's gonna be hard for me to think that, oh, these are overestimates and we're gonna come in under budget. So I want to be comfortable knowing that for the next 2 or 3 years, there will still be no PTP money to fix anything that is essential in this town, because we continue to be capricious over this one project. So I need that number. Without that number, I can't
Well,
make my decision.
I think, and let me just kind of, because you and I probably see this on a very similar vein. On the balance sheet here, and again, it's a working budget. It's not an actual budget. On the balance sheet, it does show a surplus at this time. Not saying that that's going to be accurate, right? And if history proves us right,
Right, it shows a surplus, but it shows PTP money for the next 3 years.
right. And that's what I'm assuming, right? That surplus is somehow being generated by those extra dollars that are going into the project. And again, guys, if you would have had the crystal ball on the front end, we would have probably not been, proceeding with the numbers that we had. We don't have that information, right? We don't know what's going to happen in the future. But based on your experience, how close is this to the real number?
This is a question for the manager.
Right, but that's a construction question, right? And this is our
Yeah.
legal
I think that's
fees.
a
I
question
just
for
don't think
the
it's,
manager.
I think that there's multiple disciplines here, right?
Mhm.
The legal one, if you would have asked us, right? When we started this was supposed to be done in 6 months. Right? That was your opinion. We were fast tracking this. Remember that? So I'm coming back to it, knowing what we know now, right? Because things changed. Experts that we hired maybe didn't give us the good advice. Now that we've become a little bit more seasoned with it, in your estimation, the numbers that you guys, your plate, right? Are these solid numbers? Or are these,
I mean, I can give you an opinion on the legal fees, but I can't give you an opinion on the construction.
no, we're going to go through each
Yeah.
discipline. I think
No.
that's what, I think the exercise that Councilman Rano is trying to get at is that,
Mm.
because I see here a fully funded budget. I see it over, right? I see it actually going to be able to put in money back into PTP. I see it that it's leveraged federal dollars, state dollars, but you can understand why she might be a little bit hesitant, right? And that's what I'm trying to frame is kind of, are there any other boogeymen in here?
Everything that is from fiscal year ending September 21, September 22, September 23, that is spent. That is not an estimate. That is, we spent that. Okay. So when you look at the numbers there, the number I threw out a little while ago is it's actually pretty accurate. It was just a hair under $1.4 million is what we spent up to the end of the fiscal year that just ended, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So moving forward, the only thing that is really a variable is going to be the construction cost. And that we will not know until we put it out to bid. But we have design consultants, we have professionals that have assisted. Omar's checked and double checked it. The number that we have estimated in this spreadsheet is not a 2018 number. It's a 2023 number. So it is as close as possible to accurate. But once again, we don't know until we put it on the table, out on the street for bid. What I can tell you is that the way this project is currently funded, it has actually more than just completely funded. There is a surplus in this project budget, which is why I say that our hope is that once the construction contract is put on the street, it's bid out, it's let, that we will have capacity there to take PTP money out of the project and take it back into infrastructure items.
Right. So in here and going back to that construction cost, and I guess the question is to Omar to whatever scope he can answer this question, right? Out of the 6.769 million, right, that are construction costs, similar projects that have happened in 2023, right? Is that in the ballpark or we're going to come back? Like what I don't want is Optimus Park, right? Where we think it's going to be 10 million and then we have a $25 million price tag. And then even what we've done today, which is basically think that we're going to fund this, is back into life support, right? So is 6.7 million, I'm not a construction expert. I don't deal with public works projects like that. Is that kind of in the range that you need to build a bridge and a road?
For the size, based on the input from the design engineer who prepared the OPC, and then it was adjusted as of the last estimate for projected increases until I think it was next year, predicted start of construction. That's the number they achieved. And then we, on our end, we went ahead and got that number and did an adjustment from the original date based on the inflation trends. And we get a number around that same number that the design engineer provided.
Got it. So you use two different methodologies
Yes.
to arrive to more or less
One
the
us
same.
and one.
Right. So you use two different methodologies. Now I'm going to throw a similar question. You've been working on drainage improvements, a lot of public works projects. Has that formula that you guys used been true?
So so talking about drainage, it's two
I know,
different.
I know.
two different. All right, but-
And just understand that I'm coming from a very layman's perspective.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to see is, has the methodology that you have used to
No.
fund capital improvement, public works, have you used that same methodology? Has it been successful in cost estimations in these other projects?
So for the most part, our projects have fallen within or around budget. So far, several of our projects have not, for drainage, have not used the contingency funds. And the ones that have stayed within the contingency amount. So far, we have been trending to be within acceptable margins of what we've estimated.
And that contingency is 10% normally on a project, right? On a
Yes,
construction
typically it's a
project. So
10%.
within this budget, within this number that you see on the spreadsheet, there's already built in a 10% contingency. And that's usually to account for, sometimes things come up, right? As they start building, something comes up, a
For
power
things.
line that wasn't an estimate, all of those things are items that they put in that contingency to help offset any surprises later on.
Can I appreciate it? And I apologize, Councilwoman Rana, the floor continues to be yours until, yeah.
No, it's perfectly okay. I think that making this a working meeting is much more productive. One of the things that I have a hard time with, and I had a hard time with it from the inception, right, was spending so much money on a project that we had not acquired the property for yet. So much in design, and so, I mean, to the tune of $1.4 million, and we still don't have anything. Is it customary to do that? I know this is the first time that we dabble in eminent domain, but is it customary to spend so much money on something that is still up in the air?
Well, I mean, this train had left the track by the time I got hired as town manager. And by the time Omar got a hold of this project, Omar and I actually have the same exact start date. We both walked through the door the very same day. So I believe that the reason why they initiated design of the roadway was, with the good intentions, which was to expedite everything, right? So they figured that eminent domain was going to happen. The right-of-way issues were all going to be resolved. So in order not to delay the project, I think that's why some people before us took the initial step of getting design underway so that we wouldn't, because the design took almost a year, right, Omar, or at least? So,
Yeah.
taking away any of the changes and revisions that we've come, like the realignment of the road, the design and the plans and everything probably took about a year, and permitting, right?
Yeah, a little bit more.
Maybe more.
I wanna quote
So
me
we
on
have
this.
permitting for this project?
Yeah, there's permitting as well. South Florida Water Management, Durham.
So we have permitting and everything for a project that we have not been able to acquire.
Oh, no, the
No.
permitting phase is not completed. We still have,
Okay,
Yeah.
and the only reason why I ask is because during my tenure here, this seems to be our Achilles heels, that we design things before we have the money to fund them. And we design things before, and in this particular project, before we even have anything in hand. So now it's almost like we have to vote for this under duress. I don't want to move forward with this project. I haven't wanted to move forward with this project for a long time. I don't like eminent domain. I don't like taking somebody's property. I never thought that this was a project that was worthy of eminent domain. But now I have to decide whether I want to throw away $2 million or move forward with this project. And I just don't think that's fair to this council, because that's not a decision that any one of us is going to make if we were not in this particular position right now. If we had not spent all of this money, we would all be looking at this project in a different light. But we don't have that option. And that's why for me, this number is so important, because it just seems like it's a bucket that we continue to dump money into, and we're going to continue to dump money into it into the future. And a very small project has turned into what, a $15 million project? That wasn't supposed to be the case. So even though I'll say it a million times over, it's neither our fault nor the attorney's fault. It hasn't been anything other than market fluctuations. It really does put us in a very difficult position, because I don't feel comfortable moving forward with this project. And I also don't feel comfortable throwing away taxpayer money. So it really, truly, for me, this is not going to be an easy decision to make. Go ahead, Luis.
Oh, yeah, Councilman Diaz, the floor. I apologize. I'm going down the, even if you haven't
Got it.
signaled to me that you want the floor, I'm giving everybody the opportunity to kind of chime in, and then we'll come back and then we'll call the question once all the debates, discussion's over.
Got it. I don't have any more questions beyond those that have already been asked. What I will say though is I think a lot of us share the frustration with respect to how long it's taken us to get to this point, which has only helped to increase the cost of the project, right? You know, as costs have gone up for construction, and as different Congresses and different administrations even have come into power, and the legal parameters, or rather the regulatory parameters, have been shifting. Yes, this project has been close to death multiple times. And, you know, that was part of what motivated my proposal to have our federal lobbyists seek out money through the federal appropriations process to give this one last shot. And fortunately, we got it. Of course, with that, the dynamics have still changed in terms of the costs we're looking at. And I do think that, yeah, there's going to be some question marks, as there probably will always be with these capital improvement projects down the line. I think, though, as my colleagues have stated, we've reached a point between our lobbying of Congress as well as the legislature, and you know, with many of our friends that have taken a chance on us to help us out with this, that we are kind of in a position where we have to move forward and see this through to the end. I'm putting a lot of trust in the manager to be able to make sure that he's on top of staff, that we continue to move this along with all due haste, and that we get this done on time, under budget, no more issues. I guess my question though, through the chair to Omar, as I was talking, it just came to me. Do we have opinions of probable costs for each aspect of the project already?
Yes, that's the one that the engineer used to go ahead and project it out to next year. So
So these numbers are a bit more concrete than in the past, because for example, as the councilwoman pointed out, right, when I first came on board this council, the Optimus Park project was estimated in our master plan to be $4.5 million. Then we got the opinion of probable cost, and it ballooned to 18 point something million. And then that number came down and then went back up. So I think that, you know, seeing how those numbers have shifted has made us a little wary up here. Go ahead.
So the I guess in the past they may have been from a conceptual design plan set. These are from 100% design plans. There's just they're not construction. They're almost there, but they're 100%.
No, I think that's good. And actually, to you, Mr. Manager, what I would say is, as we start to get underway with the new long-term master plan, as we start to, you know, sit down eventually and work on that, you know, that on the numbers that are reflected on there, we should try to get better numbers, I think, than what we've seen in the past. Because I think what's happened is, you know, the community has been told this aspect of the master plan will cost this will cost this, and it's almost never been closed, I don't believe. So, and obviously, you know, it's a 10-year master plan, right? So a lot can happen in that point in time, or in that time period. But it, you know, still, I think getting true to life numbers is great. I think for example, the exercise that Vice Mayor Rodriguez had gone through with you all and Jeremy during the Optimus Park, and was able to shave off, I think it was like $4 million off of that plan, I think shows that sometimes there's a lot of over budgeting that goes on in some of these estimates. And so I'm going to be cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to get it done on time, but I would definitely try to revise the number or, take a look at the numbers and make sure that they're true to life. Because again, if Vice Mayor Rodriguez was able to shave off 4 million, whatever it was, from the Optimus Park plan prior to it going out to voters, then maybe there's also some room here to get more true to actual numbers that will make some of my colleagues feel a lot better. But I'll be voting for this project moving forward. And I'm wrapping up right now. It's just simply because I do think that the project does yield other benefits, and it's not just going to Costco, right? I think in terms of public safety, it is something that will, however slightly, increase the response time to the school. God forbid there's ever an incident there. I know that there are other smaller businesses there that are actually supportive of the project opening, because it will make it a lot easier for their customers that are also residents to visit them. And obviously they're not a corporate behemoth like Costco or even a large company such as our friends at the Auto Mall. So there are local businesses there that have communicated with me that they would like to see this project go through. And they're also owned by residents, and a lot of their customers tend to be residents. So I think looking at it from that perspective, the public safety dynamic and the increased economic development to our smaller businesses is something that does make the project attractive. Although I also will say that, I've learned a lot through this process and maybe even have become a little jaded as far as, how things get done with, but that's not exclusive to all of you. A lot of that has to do just with the way that government works. But with that, I'll be supporting the project.
I have another question.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. So what we're going to do, just to continue, I'm going to go second wave, starting with Councilman Garcia.
Thank you so much. I believe two things. This will definitely, after we look at this after 5 or 10 years and we're finally connecting a huge part of our town, the northeast part of our town that hasn't been connected since the beginning, since the town has been founded. I think it's going to reap a lot of benefits we can't see right now. But I also agree with my colleagues. This is a learning opportunity, guys, for us to two big projects that, there are certain things we can do better, and we can do a postmortem on this and find out where the areas of opportunities are, so we can do better for the next projects coming up, because the residents deserve that. But I will be voting yes today. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the comments that I'm going to make, actually inspired by some of the attorney remarks as well. And I'm going to go back to the opening comments. Councilman Dieguez, the mayor, they went out on a limb and they asked for favors in Tallahassee and Washington. And when I said we're kind of at that point where we say no now, not only have we thrown away money, but we burned a lot of bridges. No pun intended, right? Mr. Gastesi, I think kind of that's the sentiment. And one of the things is saddling the future council with financial obligations. Another one is, hey, remember, I gave you that money and you guys didn't want it. Maybe saddling them with the inability to get money in the future, right? Is another counterpart to this. So to go back to my comments, I just think we're in too deep. To kind of support Councilwoman Rano's position, if I would have known this, we would have never gone for it, and I know all the opportunities that are there that we talked about. It's just a reality of where we're at. So we've gotten to the point where I think we can do postmortems. We can, try to figure it out. My last comment, and kind of Director Santos, you gave me a lot of reassurances when your public, when your remarks said, I've used this methodology before. To the managers, I guess, tool belt, so to speak. And I know this issue has been brought up before. Do you have the resources within your grasp, whether they be here or whether they be from the outside, to address that? And is that something you want to make comment to now?
Yeah, I believe we do. We actually went through an exercise internally and we kind of split out this project into different disciplines, legal, design, intergovernmental, some things that are more abstract, some things that are more concrete, construction, CEI, post-design services, all these different elements that comprise this project. And then we listed, and I can share that that chart with you, with all of you after this meeting. We listed the internal resource that is dedicated or working on this project, and then also the external resource, because we've had a slew of external resources that we've enlisted. You know, Omar's never been afraid, and you know, even Carlos Acosta before him, they've never been afraid to say, we don't have the capacity to handle that piece of it, right? Like, for instance, the design, the CEI, the obviously construction, all of those elements. We probably have, I don't know, maybe 8 different outside resources that we've enlisted to assist with this project. No. Yeah, they're embedded into this project, into the project budget. We also had a conversation today with a very esteemed person within the world of engineering, Mr. Jose Abreu, who happens to be a town resident, who in the past has always offered, you know, basically free services to be a sounding board for us. Yeah, he was the district secretary for FDOT years ago. He also served for about 8 years as the director of the Miami-Dade County Aviation, so oversaw Miami Airport as well as other facilities. We went through and we used him as a sounding board earlier this morning. We went through this entire project, and we went through all of the elements. We talked about all of the different outside entities, Marlin, Stantec, all of the different outside consultants that we have embedded into this project, and he was astounded. To me, Omar, correct me if I'm wrong, he says, you guys are good. He says, we can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. He says, I believe, and then at the end, he said, he offered, but if you ever want to bounce an idea or whatever, I'm here, I'm a town resident. You know, you could always call me. You have my cell phone, and he offered those services for any kind of to act as what he did today, which was a sounding board for our project. But I think that he was impressed by our complement of internal and external resources, and he I guess he reinforced the fact that we have all the pieces in place. This project, 100%. I understand your frustration. Listen, this project was around before I got here. And I'm as frustrated with this whole process as you are. And you guys have been dealing with it for a little longer than me, because you walked through the door before me. But we have the expertise. We have enlisted the services of outside entities and companies, and whenever we need them, we're not afraid to do that. They're already budgeted. And I believe that there were some things that have the dominoes, as I like to call them, dominoes that had to fall. One is the acquisition of this warehouse. The second domino will be the final approval from the FAA for the realignment of the road. Once that second domino falls with the FAA, you're going to see dominoes start to fall left and right. So I believe that this will, the milestones will be accomplished at a much more rapid pace from this point moving forward. So I believe that this project will start moving along, and I'm hoping that within the next 12 months, we get to that point where we're ready to let the construction contract out, because we have all the other pieces in place. We have some right-of-way issues that we need to finish and finalize but everything will springboard off of the FAA approval of the realignment.
And to that point, and this is my final question, I know I only allot 3, and this is my third. The licensing agreement for 100,000, is that an obligation every 2 years in perpetuity?
That is an obligation that will come to us through the Miami-Dade County Aviation, but it's really a mandate of the FAA. And we haven't kind of thrown in the towel with them yet. We're trying to see if there's some way around it. But just as an example, I don't know if Omar caught it today, Tony, Omar, and I had a Zoom meeting with the chief operating officer of Miami-Dade County and some of his staff dealing with solid waste, and the question that's out there now about the relocation, possible relocation of the incinerator, the one that burned down for Miami-Dade County. One of the potential, Miami-Dade County has narrowed it down to 3 potential sites, one of which is at a Miami-Dade County owned aviation, an airport that Opalaco West, which is out there off of County Line Road and US 27. It's county owned. But if the county decides to repurpose that land from aviation to an incinerator, Miami-Dade County is going to have to pay aviation a rental fee, a lease fee. So we're a different entity, right? We're a city that's possibly going to use a, piece of land for a roadway. Miami-Dade County will have to pay Miami-Dade Aviation because of these FAA regulations. We're trying to see how we can mitigate it because it's all based on the rate of what this license fee is all based on what the alternative use for the property is. So we're trying to work with the aviation, the FAA, as well as our federal lobbyist and our friends at the office of Mario Diaz-Balart's, Representative Mario Diaz-Balart's office, to see how we can minimize what that ongoing payment is going to be as far as that license agreement. But that's the extent of what that's about. Yeah, and the number that we have in there, I think, covers 2 or 3 years. 2 years. They gave us a formula based on the amount of square feet that the roadway is going to take up. And so it's a formula that we used. We're hoping that the rate, because they're saying that, oh, we could build warehouses there or some other thing. We believe that not, because it's so close to the runway protection zone, that we believe that not. And that's going to be our argument to try and minimize that payment, that the alternative use for that is not going to be something that is really marketable. And those are the things. So what you have in here is probably the worst case scenario as far as that license fee.
Thank you. My last question is going to be, and I want to make sure that I'm reading the numbers properly. I'm trying to come up with the funding for this project. Total cost is about $15 million, 14.6. What is the total that we're receiving in grants and state and federal funding? What is the total money that we are being gifted?
If you look at the top part of this, of the revenues,
Right.
So you have there,
Right.
you
We
have
have
first
grants. We have
FDOT,
3 grants.
3 grants, then Miami-Dade County road impact fees,
Okay. And those Miami-Dade County road impact fees, those are,
almost 1.9, I believe.
right, but those are, would that be given to us under different circumstances for something else? Or
No.
is that specific to this project?
Specific to this project. Right. Remember that the road impact fees in Miami-Dade County is going to, they're transitioning to something that we transitioned to a few years back,
Mhm.
right? So they're transitioning from road impact fees to mobility fee. But
Okay.
they already had road impact fees allocated. And the way Miami-Dade County does it is they have zones for road impact fees. So for road impact fees, we're competing with communities throughout all of North Dade County, all the way out to Biscayne Bay, all the way out to the ocean. And the new methodology, mobility fee, they're going to reconfigure their maps and their zones. We're going to be competing more with areas that are within closer to home, right? We're going to be competing with Hialeah, Northwest Dade County, but I believe that the mobility zones are going to be smaller than the impact fee zones. So more of the money that is generated here is going to stay close to home, which I
Okay.
think is a good thing.
Okay. And the reason why I ask is I'm trying to figure out how much this is going to cost us. Monies that we could have allocated to other things. And I'm coming up with 4.5 million. I don't know if that's of the 14.
Really, the only thing that is in here that is
It's
something is
Our PTP money and our fuel tax and our mobility fee for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
that's correct.
So that comes up to about $4.5 million
That's correct.
is what this project is going to cost us.
You're probably looking at worst case scenario, because I'm hoping that some money from that number can be reallocated as we get closer to the end of the project. Right, as we can reallocate once we know construction costs, et cetera.
Okay. Two more questions. Well, you know what? Now that you reminded me, and it's not really much of a question. It's more of a comment and it bothers me, so I'm going to put it on the record. The mayor and vice mayor should be here. They should both be here. They are the leadership for this town and they are not here. And they saddle the rest of us with this very important decision. One that has been spearheaded by the mayor for the last 5 or 6 years. So I'm going to put it on the record, my disappointment. And I know that there are members of this community that are also disappointed. This is a 7-member council and 7 of the members should be here. And if this would not be time sensitive, I think that it would be in our best interest to table this until a future date when the entire council can be here, because this is going to be one of the biggest decisions that we make up here in a very long time. And so that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask the attorneys, is if there's any way that we can table this and have another meeting where we could have our leadership present so that we can vote as a 7-member body.
What is the agreement we have with them?
No, unfortunately, this date was actually embedded in the settlement agreement. So we foresaw that this council meeting was going to take place, and it was included in the settlement agreement that this vote will take place today.
And there's legal reasons why we did that, because of concerns of hearings that were coming up.
Okay. And what are the rules with regards to council members missing meetings to not vote on things?
Well,
Because I've never done that myself, so I don't know
I'm not,
if there are any rules.
the premise of your question is that if they're doing it on purpose, I don't know. I have not discussed their attendance with them or lack of attendance. I don't know any facts on this issue as far as why they are here or why they are not
Well, the
here.
mayor made it clear that he was no longer supporting this project and that he would no longer participate in any of these discussions. He made it clear at our last meeting here. I don't know if everybody remembers that, but he said that he would no longer be participating. Can we do that? Can I walk away and not vote?
Under Florida law, if you're at the meeting, you have to vote. I don't know why he's not here. There were discussions and things the mayor wanted to see, and I think some of those things have been addressed. But those were all discussed at the executive session. And he was present for part of that. I don't know why he's not here. I haven't spoken.
No, and
to
I
the
don't
gentleman.
expect you to
Yeah,
know. And
Yeah,
perhaps some of my comments are not questions and just comments. To me, as a member of this body, it is very disrespectful that meeting after meeting after meeting, our mayor and vice mayor are not present. I just don't understand it. So I just wanted to, because it's brought up to my attention and because I feel this way, I wanted to put my comments on the record.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Diegues. Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, if you can call the roll.
Councilmember Dieguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez,
No.
Councilmember Ruano,
No,
Councilmember Collazo.
Yes.
The motion passes.
I think you have to adjourn. Adjourn.
Adjourn the meeting.
Oh, meeting's adjourned. I thought we only have one item. Yes, meeting's adjourned.